Thank you for joining us this evening for the Artist Exchange. It's a group created by and for artists to share new work, ideas, resources, and opportunities monthly over a glass of wine or tea, as you prefer. Please let us know where you're from in the chat. Then grab your beverage and join us as we discover the work of two wonderful artists. I'm Shelley Rugg, the Executive Director at Gallery Route 1 and co-producer of the Artist Exchange. For our presentation today, we ask that you please stay muted unless we ask you to unmute. For best viewing, select speaker view from the top right corner of the Zoom viewing screen. And we want you to know that we are recording today's presentation for future viewing on our website and YouTube channel. Now, please join me in welcoming, just a moment, I had to let someone in. Join me in welcoming Pamela, our writer and co-producer and host of the Artist Exchange, Pamela Blotner, an East Bay artist whose art reflects on our relationship to wildlife and environmental destruction. She has taught at several universities, including the Universities of Maryland and San Francisco and Pixar Animation Studios. In 2017, she was appointed a U.S. Arts Envoy to Burma. Please welcome Pamela Blotner.
Thank you, Shelley. That was very graceful. I appreciate it. And I have the opportunity, I get the opportunity to introduce our artists. And each program is two artists. And so it's very nice to get to learn a little bit about people. And so tonight we have two Bay Area artists. One is Kelley Berg and the other is Sas Colby. And they each use personal and family experiences as lenses to explore historic and universal events. In so doing, they also examine the artistic materials and processes that they use to illustrate their ideas and memories. I'm going to start out with Kelley Berg. And Kelley Berg uses texture, accident, and imperfection in her work to characterize her lived experiences. She creates art that she hopes will resonate and spark connections with a wide spectrum of viewers. So I would like to say good evening, Kelley. Take it away.
Hello. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you very much. I think we're going to step through a series of paintings, recent paintings that I did, many of which are on show right now at Gallery Route 1 in the Annex, I'm delighted to say. I work in acrylic, oil, and I do some collage work as well, incorporating that into the acrylic or oil, which either one that I'm using at the moment. This is one from the series now hanging in the show that is entitled Before Salt and Memory. This is 12 by 12, and this is one of 6 solitary figures. These came out of, they're all I refer to the set as waders, and the basis of this show is my exploration of our common shared experiences. I really wanted to find something that would focus more on our commonality than on our differences. And I grew up near the water and on the water, and I noticed that when people are in the water, they are frequently in a very beautiful point of presence. And I felt like that was a really great place. That was where I needed to spend some time, given our current political moment. So I created a body of 11 pieces that are all centered in the aging body, in the metaphor of moving through our lives. Next slide. Of the same series, I refer to this one as Olive. When I spend time making these figures, they frequently become my friends, I guess I could say. I love this one because it gave me the opportunity to create very defined figurative elements, and then very, very liquid elements in the reflection, which I just loved doing that with this series. Next one, please. This is Oscar. Oscar is inspired by the people that I watch swimming in Tamales Bay. I love this guy so much. He is a great storyteller, has a wicked sense of humor. I really like this one also because it was very easy to build in texture, and I just I find that texture is a huge element in the work that I do. It's very fascinating. If there are any painters among us here, you can tell a painter when they're looking at art because they read the piece side to side and up and down, and this one has plenty to read. If you come see it, you can get up close and personal with it. Next one. Lucy. Another powerful image, an older body. I love the weight. I tried to capture a lot of determination and weight in Lucy. She is paired. The size of this is 20 by 16, just like Oscar. And again, inspired by the swimmers we have here locally. Next slide. This comes from the same show, Before Salt and Memory. This is 40 inches by 30 inches. This particular painting is called A Very Long Way to Here. And I made this one to capture the feeling, a more meditative feeling. Again, having grown up by the Atlantic Ocean, the horizon line of the sea has informed my entire life. And even though he's not looking at the horizon line, it's a prominent aspect of this particular canvas. And my hope is that the high palette, the high key palette of kind of soft colors will provide a more meditative feeling. Next photo. This is 16 by 16 square format. Unfortunately, this photo is a little, doesn't really show the vibrance of the green, which provides a really great contrast. This is very different in style. I put a lot more of my usual texturing into the foreground, and then set this very, very quiet figure in a position of, for me, it's a position of meditation and quietude that characterizes most of the pieces in this particular collection. Next one, Shelley. Switch up to self-portraits, and this is just a self-portrait that I did as I was crawling out of the vestiges of COVID. It probably shows. It's got a lot of agitation, but I love this as an exercise of value, light and value, and the power of brushstrokes. Next one. This is a portrait I did of my brother, and I love this one for a number of reasons. One, I love it because I adore my brother, but this is set on a ferry ride that we have taken many, many times in our lives together. I also love the color, and it looks pretty stern. It makes me laugh every time I see it, though, because I know what's behind that that expression. Next one. Going back to what Pamela said in her intro about our work being informed by our family relationships, this piece is called Sistren. It's a 12 by 12 cold wax and oil piece. Again, you can see distressed and very textured. And I guess the title speaks for itself. There are some collaged aspects to this buried under the oil. And if anyone has done cold wax and oil, you know it's a very iterative process, very tidal, putting material on, removing material. Next slide. This I wanted to offer this as just a different aspect of some of the work that I do, which is 3D. I live in an area that has lost so many tan oak trees, and I was so distressed by that, and I wanted to find some way to make use of them. And so one of the things that I made out of one of our fallen tan oak trees is Sentinel. This is about eight inches high, I think, 8 by 10 or so. And it's carved with hand axe and chisel. Shelley? And this is what I've currently been working on. I call these cutouts. In this political moment, I really wanted to find some catharsis to deal with the agita I was feeling. And I actually started making these generalized and caricature forms out of packing paper and putting them in conversation or confrontation with each other. This particular piece is out of a series called Susanna's and the Elders Revisited. And the writing in it is actual quote from the 14th Amendment, all around due process, etc. And I have about 7 of these in the series. Shelley? More on Susanna's and the Elders. This is called The Six, and it has to do with the Supreme Court, the majority on the Supreme Court, and the harm I feel it's doing to our country. Thank you.
Well, Kelley, thank you very much. There was a lot of variety, not knowing your work, not knowing you for very long. It's always a lovely surprise to see something like this and to see so much good work. So thank you. So thank you very much. And from here, I will go on and introduce Sas Colby. Sas has spent 5 decades making art as a quest for beauty and meaning and as a way of examining her own beliefs. She lives equally in her garden and studio as laboratories, using them as laboratories for the color and form that find their way into her paintings. Would you care to tell us about this, Sas?
Yes, hi everyone, and thank you so much. This is really a wonderful opportunity to have a dialogue. I wanted to, because I've worked in so many different mediums, beginning with textiles and then going into photography and then mixed media. And we can show the first slide now, Shelley. I wanted to start with in the 1990s when I moved for 8 years and lived in Taos, New Mexico. And at that time, the spaciousness of New Mexico, the sky, and the change in space opened up a kind of spaciousness in my work. For years, I'd been working in artist books. And when I was in New Mexico, I began to paint. And that's the beginning of my painting, was really on these books, which I painted of canvas. Next one. So I also I wanted to show you how I used text. And this book is, I think it's about 12 inches square. You can see that there are cut out voids there. So in my books, which the canvas books I always thought of as sort of kinetic paintings and sequential paintings, you can see the word eternity. So even though I was much younger then, I was still thinking about time as I am now. Those letters are cut out of canvas and glued to the support. So that's why they look raised. And I use gel to do that with. Next slide. Also, in some of those earlier books made in the 90s, I did paintings that accompanied them. This painting is probably about 36 inches wide, and it's unstretched. And it also hangs with the Eternity book. And again, I have cut out the letters and applied them to the canvas. So it creates a wonderful texture. and interest. And I think the word eternity is so powerful just in itself. Next slide. As I experimented with these painted canvas books, I went through a lot of different stages with them. This one, made in 1995, is the most refined, and it's called Psychic Research. And in it, the pages are triangularly shaped, and you could move them so that you could see different configurations of each section as it was presented. There are holes so that you can cut through and have a sense of what's coming. There are found objects glued to the page. The text is also applied, cut out letters, and also painted and collaged on here. Next one. Continuing to work with text, this is like 2018, towards the beginning of the pandemic, when I was working on a series of word paintings. And I was making very small paintings, 9 by 12 or 11 by 14, with different phrases on them. Sometimes it would be something, a thought I would have, or a song lyric, or a question. Next slide. Questions were often about what was happening during the pandemic. One painting says, "Who will die next?" And I began to think a lot about aging. And I remember seeing this, "The people you love get old." And suddenly it just hit me. Oh, that's true. Next one, please. Another thing I base my work on are symbols. And here you'll see in the middle the bunny, which became a symbol as my husband was dying. And on the right is the Buddha. That came from traveling a great deal in Asia with my sister Judith. And on the left is a little clay supplicant figure from very primitive from South America. Next slide, please. So here's one way that I've depicted the Buddha. Because of travels in Asia, where the Buddha is everywhere in the landscape, I began to draw it, especially as a symbol of wisdom and compassion. And I paired it with the Madonna in this piece. This piece is, each small portrait is about 9 by 12, so it's always hung like this. I don't want to break it up. I used black gesso on an oil painted board, and in doing so, the acrylic gesso began to, you can see, kind of move away because it was on oil. And that's how I got that wonderful texture that created, the figures sort of created themselves. So there's the Buddha. And the next one, please. Here's the bunny as he's insinuated into a discourse on history with a kachina on the left and some Greek figures on the right. I was thinking about time and how all of these things take place around the world at the same time, and yet each history seems to be separate. So I use the bunny as a kind of avatar, sometimes as an alter ego, to examine culture and history. This is a drawing. It's about 30 inches wide. Next slide. And that little supplicant figure is here. This painting is called Listening, and it's from 1997. The head is a drawing of an Egyptian sculpture. I'm thinking about history. I'm thinking about the sadness of history. I'm thinking about listening to all the events over time. And a lot of this comes from traveling and learning history through travel. Next slide, please. This painting is called Zen Garden, and it's obviously comes from my trip to Japan. And there is a guardian figure on the right protecting everything. And it is true that through travel, I've learned a lot of history and culture. Next slide. My sister, Judith, has lived in Thailand for years, and I've traveled a lot in Asia with her. And after our latest trip, I came home and made this painting. You can see the Buddhas there and the gilded quality of it. This is actually a triptych. I'm always trying to be more abstract, and I'm working towards that. Next slide. Another feeling has to do with a sense of time and aging and moving towards the light. And that's what, there I am depicting the lily. I'm using the lily and the symbol of the lily. This is called Night Garden. Next one. So I discovered the black lily. The black lily represents transformation, rebirth, and the hidden depths of the human psyche. And it's very difficult to find a really true black lily. I've planted them in my garden. They usually are more mahogany than black, but also discovering the black lily allowed me to go into darker things than I had before. Next slide. And this one here, here you see the Himalayan skull circles this white lily. And the white lily also stands for a kind of a redemption and transformation. And I like the way the Mexican culture and many other cultures recognize death as a natural part of life. And so I'm trying to also honor that. Next slide, please. And this is also a triptych, lily triptych. I love the form. I love the way it seems to dance. Next slide. This painting I call the octopus lily, because the first lily I painted just really got all those spots on them. And I'm also using, I love those little dots. I think actually the final painting has more dots than, I think when I look at it, I want to add more dots. Next slide. This one is called A Diary of an Amaryllis. And I didn't feel like this painting was complete until I added the diagram in front of it, which reminds me a lot of Hilma af Klint. So I don't know about you, but I always have amaryllis at Christmas time, and I love the way they transform from just a bulb setting up a shoot that blooms and keeps blooming and keeps blooming, and I love to watch it change. And I think one of my interests in flowers, especially now, is that sense of time that comes with flowers. They're in full bloom, and then you watch them die. And it's that cycle of life that is interesting me right now. Next slide, please. Now, I wanted to end with these two slides because I was trying to paint a fern in my garden, and I could not resolve the painting. And it came to this, and then I thought, what am I going to do with this? I couldn't make it work. So I decided to turn it into a billboard for Pamela. Next slide. And so it's not quite finished, but here's my billboard for Pamela riding over my fern. And I've had so much fun doing this because all the kind of freedom that you can take with collage and not worrying about balance or principles and pretending that actually you didn't even make it. Somebody walking along the street added a bunny or a message on there. So I think this is really good for me at this particular time, and I really would like to spread some powerful energy around. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sas. That was great.
Yeah, so I'm curious, I know that Sas and Kelley had a conversation before this show, and just wondering if you guys might share a little bit of what that conversation was like.
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
Hey,
I
Sas,
agree.
can I just ask you what your your artistic influences besides your absolutely stunning garden are?
My artistic influences, I mean, they're eclectic, as you know, as Pamela came up with that eclectricity title for our program. They're, you know, surprisingly, they're very literary in a way. I met Anais Nin in the 70s, and I was
Did
very,
you really?
yeah, influenced by that sort of the avant-garde and the surrealist world. And but I'm also very interested in, you know, modernist work. So I'm interested in everybody, as well as, you know, folk art. And I worked in textiles for years, and one museum person called me a folk artist. And I was a little offended, but actually I don't mind now. Um, so, I mean, is that broad enough for you?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. When I look at your work, you know, I see a lot of Matisse in there, and I see, you know, a lot of the surrealist. You mentioned Hilma, which I think is so apt with some of your line work. It's just exquisite, and your colors are beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, Bonnard, Matisse, of course. I mean, yes.
Yeah, really lovely.
I am I really I use flash paint a lot, and if you see this painting behind me here, that's a lot of flash paint. It has a marvelous palette, and I'm just really trying to, in a way, modulate it a little bit now, so there's more darkness and more contrast in what I'm doing. But and I can ask you, Kelley, and just tell you how impressive it is. Um, the sensitivity I feel when you uh, depict those beautiful aging bodies, and the sense of the union with the water, I think is just powerful. There is something so basic and elemental about being in water. And I love that close up where you just see the lower part of the figure and her legs in the water. Your ability to depict that. I haven't seen the real painting. I've only seen, you know, these images, is just stunning. And I mean, I think it's a really, in a way, groundbreaking use of symbol and metaphor, and your own very exquisite technique.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, you know, it was a fantastic thing to spend that much time. Sometimes when I paint a series, I just find it so deeply enriching, and I wonder if you did, if you had that same experience with your Lily series, because you can just spend a lot of time with the motif and feel it and have conversations with it. And in this case, you know, I'm dealing with the apparent solidity of our bodies and the liquidity or the fluidity of water and what it's like when those things meet. And that was very, very interesting. But the humanity of the figures, and of course, I am in an aging body. And as I said at the opening of our show, you know, if one is very fortunate, one gets to have an aging body. And you know, if one's super fortunate, you get to carry on your joy in as you age. And find myself surrounded by people who model that for me. And I just think it's to go, it's really interesting. Folks on this call, like you look at Sas's work and you look at my work and you're like, well, they don't really have a whole lot in common. But as Sas and I were talking, and as you've heard me talk, we have a lot of we're looking at mortality, we're looking at the joy of living, but we're also looking at being in a human body that's a bio envelope and has a finite, well, it has an expiration date. We don't know what it is, but it's there. And
Yes.
so I was really, that kind of leads me to another question I have for you, Sas, which your Lily series is so beautiful to me because one, it's really courageous. Like you put that black lily, or you put that, you think it's an octopus. I see a starfish with that huge, beautiful spotted lily, or, you know, the lilies that you feature and what they mean to you. And they have such a gorgeous kind of fluidity to them, but they're big, but lots and lots is going on around them and under them. And
Well, I've lived with a lily quite a bit. I mean, I was buying them all the time and painting them, looking at them, and I don't think that I would do a good realistic lily. I'm not that, that's not what I'm going for. I still haven't gotten to what I think I'm going for with it. You know, I'm rarely really satisfied with anything that I do because each painting calls forth the next one. You know, I really kind of have to put them away, or else I'll be putting dots all over everything. That kind of thing.
yeah.
So, but I feel that way about the Buddha too. I mean, I got way, way into the Buddha, and the bunny was a very personal symbol for me. I drew it for many years. Um, it's just something I did when my husband was sick, and after he died, I had all these drawings of this little rabbit figure, and the rabbit figure became like an alter ego, like an avatar for me. And so then at one point, the bunny just sort of got up and walked away. And, you know, the bunny helped me transform, you know. So there's a lot of grief actually in the lilies and in the bunny and in the Buddha. I mean, you wouldn't think that looking probably at my work, but I do think you and I are doing something very, very similar. And in terms of an awareness of the life process, living and dying,
Yeah.
and moving through it all. Yeah.
Yeah, the moving through, that was the metaphor. Placing bodies in the water was my metaphor for moving through. And it's very interesting to share that in common with the body of work that you're sharing with us.
Yeah.
Very
Yes.
different approaches.
Thank you. I was
Well,
very moved.
I don't know that many artists who are present tonight, unfortunately. And so I really am curious about who might also work with the figure and nature, since there is that seems to be that blend, certainly with Sas and certainly with Kelley. And I look at I see Linda McDonald is here, who has wonderful paintings. I have never seen a figurative piece that you've done, but I wonder if there are others who find that you blend back and forth nature, water, figure.
Yeah, audience, please unmute yourselves
Did
and
somebody
feel
say
free.
something?
Feel
Well,
free
I
to
know
comment.
Linda's wonderful paintings of trees and in all their layers and depths have always moved me. The awareness of you know, transformation of life is definitely in those paintings.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Sas. Yeah, I mean, I love the old redwoods because they show that all the history that they've gone through and all the, you know, the fires and the environmental aspects and the wind, and but they're still alive. So there's sort of hope as you age that maybe you can, you know, sustain all these different sort of attacks. So to me, it's really that metaphor for, you know, living and dying, and especially during, you know, all this global warming and fires, and you know, to see how they are continuing on. I mean, some of course do die, you know, after they've been burned over and over. They will, but they have that sustainability. And let's see, talking about people, I find it really interesting. I used to do, when I was doing quilts and I started painting on quilts, I would put people in them in these sort of silhouettes. So they weren't realistic at all, but they had sort of a purpose in there. And, you know, they were doing something. But with the oil painting, I have done some portraits like of my family, and that's really fun. And, but you know, a lot of times you do see people, they either do people or they don't do people. They do landscapes or, you know, something else. So it must be a real decision for people as to, if they're going to use the figure or not. But, you know, that's just sort of my, what, awareness of when I'm looking at art. And but I do want to say I really enjoyed both of your artworks, and yeah, they're different, but we all have sort of the same sensibilities and you know, art history background. But I did want to ask Kelley about, did you say you use wax?
I use cold wax medium. Are you
Oh.
familiar?
You know, I've seen a lot of different wax things, but I've never tried it. So, but I really liked your oil paintings, but of people, but they're not wax, are they? So,
The piece Sistren of the two women with one in a red dress, one in a green dress, that is cold wax.
okay.
I have typically employed cold wax in my more abstract paintings.
Okay. Do you get a translucency in there? Is that?
You can absolutely get a
Yeah.
translucency.
Right.
And can you only use cold wax with oil?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you add the cold wax to the oil paint. Is that right?
Yes. I was going to say the other way around, but that's just a ratio thing. But yes, that's exactly right.
Oh,
And you
okay.
make kind of a paste and you get a consistency that works for you and does what you need it to do.
Right.
It is very chemical heavy though. It's got quite a fragrance to it. So I just am putting that warning out there. But Sas, you know, to your point, you got such great effect by breaking all the rules with your Buddha Madonna series that I think you should get some cold wax and just, you know, go for it. See what happens.
Would you put that on like an acrylic painting?
I think it would lose its mind and
Something would happen, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But you never know. I mean, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Thank you. Okay.
Do you use the Daniel Smith cold wax medium that comes in?
No,
a
I
can?
use Gamblin. There's
Gamblin.
Dorland's, there's Gamblin, there's
Yeah,
a bunch
okay.
out there.
A lot. Okay. I
Yeah.
like Gamblin products.
It's really, really fun, but you give yourself time and understand that it is very iterative. You put it on, you have to let it set up or you will create just a lot of mud.
I'm absolutely new to cold wax. Is the wax really cold?
Well, it's called cold only because to differentiate itself from, say, the encaustic process, which uses heat. So in this case, you have a vat of wax, which is purified beeswax with odorless mineral spirits, and it has a consistency of a soft paste. So you mix that with, you know, a less wax to pigment. And then you can, and there are multiple uses for the wax as well. You could use it just to create a surface because it impresses in textures. So if you were to see the work that I've made, that it's heavy duty texture, which I absolutely love.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
I use cold wax for my final varnish, you know,
Yes.
after I've done, like I do an acrylic ground and then I'll do at least 2 coats of oil painting. And then after it's totally dry, I put on a thin, to me, it reminds me of polishing your shoes because you put it on real thinly and let it dry for 4 or 5 hours or a day. And then you sort of buff it up and it gives this sort of even sheen that's more matte than shine and
Yes.
real nice because you could, you know, you could take it off if you wanted to, but that's what I use it for. I haven't used it.
That is the other thing that I will tell you about the wax. And I love that we have material nerds on this call. It makes me very happy. it reactivates. So when it cures, it feels pretty brittle and you think that it's just done. But if you were to put another layer of cold wax on it and just start working it, it would reactivate the whole thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
because of the OMS, the odorless mineral spirits.
right, yeah.
Well,
Which I
here's
like the Gamblin products for.
Yeah.
The
a little
solvent-free
offer I
and-
wanted to make to everybody. If anyone wants a picture of my Pamela billboard, if you write to me, I'll send you the finished. I'll send you a JPEG of the finished painting. Oh, I'm gonna put it on Instagram anyway.
Make a stamp out of it, Sas.
Well, yeah, right.
You want to put your email in the chat, Sas, and then people can connect with you.
Okay. Let's see if I can find it here.
Does anybody else out there have something they want to share? Any things that occurred to them while you were watching? Questions? I see a hand raised.
Can you
Yeah.
hear? Can you hear
Go
me?
ahead, yes.
Yeah,
Go
okay.
ahead, Kim.
So Kelley, your work is new to me. I've never seen it, and I have to just say the word skin. And because after seeing the few works that you did, I can't quit thinking and feeling the skin and how the skin is dying, is losing its sheen, it's losing everything. But wow, skin. And then Sas, of course, I've known your work for a while now. But the symbols are just so strong. And to me, that lily is the same as that bunny. In that it has such strong meaning for you. It's so obvious. Or the Buddha, and how you carry it to, you carry it out into different directions and hang on to it until maybe one day the lily will walk away, and maybe not.
Yes. Well,
Mhm.
thank you, Kim. I'm glad you see that, because sometimes I feel it's a little odd to conflate the bunny and the Buddha, but
Yeah.
they both are imbued with a kind of a personal meaning,
Sure.
as the lily is too. I don't know. I think when I studied with my friend Christine Hemp, who's a poet, and learned about metaphor and symbolism, in poetry, that I really got involved in symbols and what they mean.
Yeah.
And I love that idea of something standing for something.
Yes, it's so
Thank you.
clear. It's
Yeah.
so clear. And of course, your
It's like,
language.
it's like you with your sentinels too.
Exactly.
I mean, you created this this figure that has a powerful meaning for you,
Yes, exactly.
and obviously it's like a gift to others.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, both of you.
All right. Well, we got somebody else wants to speak? Yes, Christine.
I thank you for inviting me, Sas. I've known Sas for years and years, and we have been muses for each other. And to hear and watch Sas, our work. I'm a poet, so we've had some really wonderful collaborations in this. And painters have been a part of my life always. And I must say, the work of both of you is just extraordinary. And it was a good match. I wrote about art for many years in magazines and things like that as I was scraping my poet life along. But this talk tonight was just so nourishing for me too, because writers have our own little visions and big visions, and you were also articulate about speaking of your work, and that's so important, to be able to frame it in language and do it so beautiful as your pieces are.
Thank you, Christine. Great to see you.
Yeah, and I also want to say that one of the guiding lights I used while I was creating the 11 pieces that are in the show Before Salt and Memory is a poem by Marie Howe,
Yeah,
The Singularity. And I was forming the basis for this body of work, thinking it through, trying to find the messaging and where it lived inside so that I could get it out on canvas. And I heard this poem and I thought, that is exactly what I'm talking about. The poem, if you haven't heard it, please hunt her down. She reads it beautifully, Marie Howe. And the poem again is The Singularity. But it really, and Sas, I want you to read it too. I want you to look
Oh,
up.
I have it. I've
Great.
printed it out.
Okay, great. Because
Christine knows Marie.
it's like it kind of just, it's a straight line of connection through all of
she's
the work that we've been.
unbelievable. She's a friend of mine too.
Oh, well, she was so sweet because I have the printouts in the show for people to take, and I have it actually taped to one of the walls in the show. And I wrote to her to ask her, because she's a living poet, and I wanted to make sure that I had her blessing before I did that.
Sure.
And so I wrote her and I said, hey, Marie, this is such a moving and kind of singular influence on what I'm working through right now. May I feature it in my show? May I offer it to people? And she said, sure. Which is so generous, She did ask to see my work. Unfortunately, I passed muster, so I got to use her poem, but
I'm going to jump in here and I just want to make a comment that, I want to acknowledge Pamela's genius for bringing artists together. She just has a knack for pairing artists that at first glance don't seem like they fit. And then lo and behold, they really resonate on a really deep level.
I want to thank you both. Thank Kelley Berg and Sas Colby for joining us with the Artist Exchange this evening. And I'd like to reiterate a little bit what Shelley said earlier, and that is about the Artist Exchange and how it was created. And it was created to provide a platform for artists to learn about each other's work and processes and techniques. It is and was also a forum for finding out about various opportunities for artists. If you know of an opportunity for artists or have seen a good exhibition, please share them with us now. You can ask questions. Please do ask questions of each other. But if you have opportunities to report about your own work and that of others, please share it with us.
Sure. Go ahead, Kelley.
yeah, one of my dear friends, also a mentor, Lucy Pulls, she is a renowned artist, but she has a piece showing at BAMFA right now in Berkeley. That show is fantastic. It's about the ephemerality of materials and also the lack thereof. And it's really a moment for her because as renowned as she is, as well known as she is, both as an artist, a maker, a teacher, and a curator, she has her piece right next to some Eva Hesse's. And it has been so sweet to watch her just kind of gush with happiness to be in the midst of one of her art heroes. And the other thing that I'm really, really excited about is that mid-November, the Amy Sherald show comes to SF MoMA. And if any of you know Amy's work, you'll be as excited as I am to go see it. That's what I wanted to offer.
Thanks, Kelley.
Sure.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on what Kelley just said. Lucy Poles, is that her, how you would say her name? She has curated a show at, I'm going to try to do it. It's 1025 10th Street,
Yes.
Newish Gallery. The show is called Sweaty Armpits. And she curated it with another artist who I don't remember. Does anybody else know? There were two curators, they worked together. It's an interesting show. It's an interesting show worth taking a look at, as the entire gallery is. The business model, as I can understand it, is that this group of people have come together, created a gallery space, and then you can introduce proposals, and if you're accepted, then you put on the show.
Wow, that's neat.
So yeah, it is. It's an interesting.
Yes, and they do fundraising dinners, which I think is terrific. Yeah.
Didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
a lovely outside area. I can see how that would work.
Yeah.
Oh, also Seeger Gray, Seeger Gray in Mill Valley, opening October 5th, is going to be a fantastic show of paintings by a dear friend of mine, Jane Hamilton, called Adventures Close to Home. This will be very interesting for anyone who doesn't know her work. Anyone who does knows that she spent the past several years making really large format, monumental graphite drawings. And she spent the last 2 years in her studio painting. And Jane's, wow, I don't know. Her surfaces are immaculate. And these new paintings, she calls it Adventures Close to Home because she literally is painting the things that she sees when she goes out of her house in Berkeley at twilight, at dawn, the things that she sees on her walk to her studio, the vining plants at her front stoop. And it just is so beautiful, and it glows and kind of pulsates. And I can't wait to see it in Seeger Gray, which has a great space in Mill Valley.
And what is the artist's name again?
Jane Hambleton,
Jane.
Hambleton.
I'm also going to plug my own show. I have work at the Richmond Art Gallery.
Right on.
Yes,
Yes, you
it's
do.
a two-woman show with Joel Jones. She and I are in the South Gallery. It's the biggest gallery. There's a good show in that gallery as well. There's about 6 artists, and then Joel and I are in the South Gallery. It's called Sentinels and Saviors. Mine are the Sentinels, which are metal, big, larger than life metal abstracted figures with a painting as its center. And Joel has the whole wall filled with a sort of narration of and visualization of a personal internal transformation. And it's an interesting show. I hope you'll see it.
I highly recommend it.
No, thank you, Sarah.
All right, very nice. Speaking of interesting shows, I'm going to share in the chat. We have 3 shows that just opened at Gallery Route 1, of course, featuring Kelley Berg, who you've seen her work tonight. In our center gallery is our visiting artist, Amy Yoshitu, who does really interesting works with photographs cut up meticulously and sewn together into large hanging sculptures. And then in the rear gallery, we have this amazing installation by Toni Littlejohn, and she's essentially turned the entire rear gallery into a cave. a very dark cave with healing spirits around. And you can take flashlight and walk around. There's little candles and things like that. So really, really fun shows to see. And also I just wanted to share, you know, with Gallery Route 1, we've got a lot of events going on all the time. And right now it's particularly dense and we could use some volunteer help. So if you ever, you know, are interested in connecting with Gallery Route 1 and volunteering, check out our volunteer page and see if there's anything that you think would be fun. And one of the things we have coming up is our art walk. The last art walk of the season will happen on October 4th. So that's what's happening at Gallery Route 1.
Shelley, I really have to give you kudos for the genius of the art walk. It has made First Friday nights in Point Reyes so fun. It's the whole block, the whole town stays up late, and that means, you know, past 5.
Till 7.
And people are stoked. Vendors are stoked, and the people visiting town are stoked, and locals are stoked, and it's a super nice vibe. And Shelley always manages to have fun entertainment going on outside Gallery Route 1, and it just is something that feels just really delightful. So we only have one more this season, and based on how it went this year, I'm pretty sure we'll be asked to open it up again next year.
Thanks, Kelly. Yeah.
I'm very glad that you said that, Kelly, because Shelley is unbelievably creative with what she comes up with to enhance what's going on in the gallery. There is always something in the gallery or something going on around it or related to it that is fascinating. So please stop by, if only to look at Shelley.
Thanks, Pamela. Yeah.
Oh, and
Well-
I'll let you guys know as we speak, I just got word that I have several of my cutouts that were accepted into the Future Tense show at the Drawing Annex coming up in San Francisco.
Congratulations.
So I'm pretty excited about that. These pieces have never really seen the light of day outside my house. So the show is I kind of had to submit them because the whole show, based, as you can tell from the name, Future Tense, is about where each of us think we are and where we think we're going and where we hope to go. And where I hope to go is someplace really positive, empowered, and accepting.
And watery.
And peaceful.
All right. All right. Well, we're about at 7 o'clock, so I think we'll call it a night. And I want to thank everybody for coming this evening. And I'm gonna pop a donation link in the chat because this program deserves your support, even if it's $5. If everybody here dropped $5, that would be awesome. And we will be coming back to see you November 20th, and we have no idea who's going to be on the show, so it'll be a surprise for all of us. And if you or you know someone who is interested in being on the show, send an email to Pamela Blotner at gmail.com. I'll drop that in the chat as well.